Alright, we're back, and I want to show you another interesting bit of information that you might want to include when you are calculating pies and how much you're making is how many pies did I sell? Because that gives you an indication of how many you should make or shouldn't make for the next week. If you have a hot item that you ran out of, you might want to increase how much pie you make for the next week. But if you have a bust, for instance, this $8 8-piece pie that we sold, and once again, I don't have that information, you do, and so we're going to work with what information you have and be able to figure out how many pies did we sell this week. So, we're going to use the next column, and you're going to input the information that you have regarding the amount of pieces that we decided that each pie gets cut into. For instance, if one of the pies we put number of pieces, that column you're going to be using for this segment. Okay, so in your function, your little taskbar, you're going to include the equal sign. Now, I don't have that information. This is where I'm going to let you decide what information you need to include for this. Because, for instance, I'm going to include F right now as my number, okay, just for sake of having a number to work with. Don't worry about all of what I just did, other than to know that I'm going to use F as my number. So if, for instance, I don't have the information, but if I were to guess, I think we had said 10. I think we said 10, but if I'm wrong, that's okay. That's the number I'm going to use for this example. In that column, I need to include the equal sign, and I'm going to input the first cell, which is, because we're going to be doing a division problem, we're going to need to divide the bigger number divided by the smaller number. So the bigger number, the amount of pieces divided by the amount per pie. I know that sounds confusing, but stick with me here. So I'm going to take the amount of pieces sold, which is this column here that we just created. This is how many we sold, and I'm going to include letter B, number 1. So it's B1, and I'm going to divide. Now, how do I divide? Well, I come down here, and I don't know if you'll be able to see. There we go. There's my light. And we're going to come down here, and we're going to do shift and that backslash. Okay, you have to do shift and backslash. All you have to do is backslash. Shift and that button is the question mark. Once again, unedited, and I'm wrong. Kind of like in class, huh? So we're going to do the backslash. Now, I'm going to turn my light off there, and here we go. So I did a backslash so that will divide my two numbers. So my F1 here is representative of the number of pieces that I cut a pie into. So I'm going to include that cell and include F1, which it highlights it. Notice that in green. I'm going to close it. Whoops. I pressed enter. And thankfully it closed it up for me, but normally you would have to, you could click off of it and it calculate it. Notice that the number that we got is 1.5. That's telling me that I sold 1.5 pies total. This will give me an indication of how many pies I should be making of what kind. If I sold 1.5 pies and I made, and we determined how many pies we did make, and I made all those pies, then it probably wasn't a very good week for pie. Now, as you notice, because I don't have that information in front of me, you'll probably see lower numbers because I also don't know how many pies that we made of each. I would have adjusted the numbers just a tad to be more realistic, but for our purposes, this shows you how you're able to divide numbers. You have to use that backslash. This allows us to see how many pies we made. So what I want you to do now is I want you to take a few minutes and I want you to try that with this cell. Okay, I want you to do it for pie number 2 and do that exact same formula. When you're done, you should be able to go down. Now notice, because 0, it says you can't divide by 0, mine won't work. But once you have your number inputted, you should be able to drag it down and it calculate it one by one, because it's adding one more every time you click or highlight a cell. If it doesn't do that, then you may have to input it manually, which is good practice on how to divide within cells. So thus far, we've been able to do the multiplication and the division. So I want you to take this time. I will stop this segment of the video and allow you time before the next segment to be able to input that information and help each other out. If there's problems, I want you to be able to help each other out. Those that feel confident with Excel, jump up and help other people.